There's a lot of fires that happen in California, as you all know, but this Palisades and Altadena fire, I can't tell you how many people I know have lost their homes and everything they owned, and especially a lot of the artists that live in this area. So immediately after the fire, we all wanted to help. And because I own an auction house, Santa Monica Auctions, I called our landlord here at Bergamot Station Art Center and asked if we can use this beautiful empty building that was the Building Bridges space, which they have left, sadly, and they agreed to letting me have it. A couple days later, we had a meeting with the Art Dealers Association when I wanted to get the people involved to contribute art and get involved in what was happening. Everybody was into it, but Craig Krull looked very chagrined through the meeting, and he spoke up and said, "Everybody's doing auctions. It's a better idea if we have that beautiful space that we curate a show and bring in artists that we either know or that we can appreciate and hang it like an exhibition and be able to talk about it that way." So we all agreed that that was the smartest and the best way to go about helping these artists and give them 100% of the prices that the pieces sell for. So Craig asked Douglas Marshall to work with him as the curator, and together they put together this amazing show. And I'm going to have Craig and Douglas speak about a few pieces. Craig?
I'm Craig Krull, and as Robert Berman just said, I put this exhibition together with Douglas Marshall. We're both gallery owners here at Bergamot Station. And again, as Robert said, a fundraiser didn't seem enough in this crisis moment, and we decided to do something more personal, not just a fundraiser, but a way that we could give voice to all these artists who lost everything and let them tell their story, and also to rejoin the community and to gather together in one room and talk about what they've been going through. And it's been more of a healing experience. They've made some money here and there. Money's always good, but again, that wasn't my primary motive in putting this together, because there are many fundraising activities going on around town. So we gathered 40 artists who lost their homes or their studios in the two big fires. Some of them lost everything, so they made brand new work for the show, which was asking a lot because they're under a lot of stress as it is. Some had work that existed prior to the fire, but we also asked if it was pre-existing work that it might be something that reflected some sort of relationship to the fire experience or to survival or moving on or building or reconstructing, something that had relevance to the subject. Michael Diamond lost all his work, hundreds of works of art in the Palisades fire. And he's a poet slash visual artist who uses words in his work, and he uses them creatively in carving them into benches or obelisks or onto boats. So he created this with brass impressed onto a piece of wood. It says, "You forgot to burn me," which is typical of Michael because he's a survivalist, but he's also a bit of a tragic poet, fatalist, who sees his life as a struggle. So he survived and said, "Ha, you didn't burn me." And this artist, Camilla Taylor, lost everything in the Altadena fire, her home. And she was actually one of the first inspirations for me visually with this exhibition, because she did an Instagram Live with Hannah Sloan walking through her rubble and pointed out things as she was discovering them. So this literally reflects the title of the show, Out of the Ashes. These are melted pieces of metal from her home that if you look closely, there's bits of glass, And it's really beautifully constructed, even though it's completely random and just at the mercy of the fire. And then we assembled it sort of in this calligraphic dance-like motion. This is Kelly McDonald, who lost her home in Malibu, completely gone. And again, out of the ashes, these two works were made from ash. She collected ash and mixed it with paint, basically. This is John Knuth, who I did not know prior to the fires, and that's one of the great personal advantages and experience of this experience is meeting new people, making new friends. He is an incredibly wonderful, endearing human who I already love, and he's become a fast friend quickly. He lost his home in the Altadena fire, and his work has always been about climate and the environment in a not so obvious way. These are painted with basically the regurgitation or the droppings of flies. So he will feed them and then they will drop onto the surface of the canvas. And he also drew a relationship between this and the LA night sky, or the LA lights seen from above, and the vastness of the landscape here. This artist I also did not know, Molly Tierney, and this is a piece that is actually probably one of the oldest pieces in the show. She did this when she was an adolescent, 12, 13 years old, and it's her bed, basically. This is her childhood bed, and I don't know about you, but I did this too. You know, you crawl under your bed or some secret spot in your room and write messages to yourself, your dreams or your fantasies or your infatuations. And her parents saved this, and we thought it was a perfect addition to the show because it's an example of those kind of embedded, pun intended, memories that are in a home that are one of the tragic things that you lose in a fire. Certain things are replaceable, but this kind of thing is irreplaceable. This is Milo Reese, who happens to be an artist that I represent in my gallery. He was in New York when the fires hit, could do nothing to save his place or even to save his cats. They lost both of their cats in the fire. And Milo has always had this kind of biblical, Shakespearean, Greco-Roman kind of history, storytelling quality about his work. He makes personal stories universal in that way. And this particular one is him and his wife in the ruins of their home, discovering a bit of a broken lamp that was a favorite lamp of theirs. So he's turned the experience into this archaeological rediscovery. And this is Frank, P-H-R-A-N-C, who I also happen to represent. I do represent 4 of the 40 artists in this show. And Frank goes by the name the All-American Jewish Lesbian Folk Singer, singer-songwriter, but is also known as the Cardboard Cobbler because she makes work out of paper and cardboard. Like Molly, something that grew out of her childhood experiences of making forts out of big refrigerator cardboard boxes, and it stuck with her. And she makes things that reflect her coming out. She has a whole series of clothing that she didn't want to wear as a young girl. She wanted to wear the boy clothes instead of the girl clothes, so she recreated all of this, and we just did an exhibition called The Butch Closet based on that. And this is a life preserver, which she has been making for a while, a number of these, in reference to the lesbian community that she's part of, as a life-saving device or a buoyancy, as to share in that. She had a parade at one of her shows where all of her friends wore these and marched into the gallery with them. So it's made of paper, so it won't save you in a fire or a flood because it's a paper life preserver. So that's the irony.
I'm Douglas Marshall. I also have a gallery here at Bergamot Station. When Craig optioned this idea of the exhibition, I happily joined him in the endeavor. My gallery focuses heavily in the photographic space, so I brought in a handful of the photographers who were in the show. Kevin Cooley, who is here behind me with these 3 pieces, was the first artist that immediately came to my mind when we started to try and select a group of artists for the show. As I've been following his work for quite a long time, a tragic irony that his work for a while now has focused on fires and environmental concerns and wildfires. And in fact, I was following his Instagram the morning of January 7th as he had gone to the Palisades to document the early parts of the fire that day, and then got a call from his wife about their home in Altadena and had to leave the Palisades area and go back to Altadena to unfortunately eventually find their home completely gone. He made these great images along with his wife, a male and female peacock who were wandering around the property, and they talked about the symbolism they saw both in the idea of the phoenix rising from the ashes and seeing themselves in this precarious situation. This piece is by Matt Schallenberger. It's a photograph from the coast of Hawaii where his family first arrived from Portugal, I believe in the 1800s. It shows an anchor point where they would have had a crane to offload goods and people from arriving vessels. I thought it was fitting because of the presence of history and family and generations that have become very apparent in conversations around the fires, and also because of this really kind of beautiful ghostly presence of the image of the waves going in and out. It fit the show really well. And the show features just over 40 artists. We're only talking about a few of them right now. It's not to play favorites or anything, as each artist has their own really powerful story. And even beyond this exhibition, we had to kind of cap it due to the size of the space at around 40 artists. Sadly, we could have easily included 100, especially when you bring in a little bit more broad interpretation of artists in terms of photographers and commercial photographers. Another photographer that I wanted to have involved was Joshua Simpson. He is one of the sweetest people you ever meet and is the epitome of the real, tragic stories of the Altadena and Palisades fire. A young family who had really recently bought a home and was building a life there. He talks about in the text of feeling like for many years his wife and himself had been rolling a boulder up the hill only to have it come crashing down on them on January 7th. He submitted this really beautiful collage of images of his wife and his son Elijah, who broke Craig and I's hearts when he delivered Valentine's to us along with the work for the exhibitions. But a really lovely collage showing the boulders as well and the symbolism. And then he's also been making portraits of, he's a photo book collector, and he's been making a series of portraits of some of the books that were recovered from the ashes, including this one in his home called Altadena's Golden Years, which was charred but still standing, and I thought that was quite symbolic.
Also, the show would not be possible if we didn't have a slew of volunteers like Miguel and Cecilia, who have come here and spent time for free to help us and help the people look at the art. So we're very grateful for them. Thank you very much.